Hey guys, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update because I did say that yesterday the European Union Commission would be deciding the fate of the fishing industry here in Europe. And I will say that they were doing this all night. I'm not quite sure why they do these sorts of things all night. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't know if they just want everybody exhausted so that they just come to an agreement as soon as possible without actually being able to think things through, or if they do it to keep as few people there, or I don't know. It makes absolutely no sense to me. But when we went to bed last night at 10 o'clock, uh, they were basically just beginning to talk about these things. So, yes, this makes absolutely no sense to me. But when I woke up, I will say that my husband sounded very frustrated. And I can't share a lot of information yet because it's not clear. And it's not clear. It sounds like they did approve the regulation of only allowing 27 days per year. It does sound like they have compensatory measures that allow you to recuperate a certain number of years. The problem is those measures are not very clear, and it will probably take at least a week to understand these measures. So, and a lot of these measures are things that my husband is already doing. Things like having a certain type of net would give you a certain number, but they talk in percentages. And because we don't have the official ruling for the beginning, we don't understand. Like if you do certain things, you can have 3% more days. But 3% more days of what? Of 27? Is that even a day? I would have to go back and think through my math, and I'm not in the mindset to do math right now. But my point being is nobody here really understands this. What is frustrating is that the news is already talking about this as if this is such a positive agreement. The European Union is just trying to help save the planet against these horrible criminal fishermen, or who knows how they put it on the news, but that's sort of what it sounds like. And that they have come to this agreement to allow them to continue working to a certain point, because we don't even know what that point is. But what they don't share is a lot of what's going on behind the scenes. They make it sound like it's the fishermen that have come to this agreement. But the fishermen themselves don't even understand the implications of this yet. They don't understand it. And this was made in the middle of the night. The fishermen leave at 4 in the morning. They were all sleeping when this was going on, except for the few that actually went all the way to Brussels to try to be a part of hearing what was going on to a certain point. And I don't even know how much they even let them in. I don't know what was going on there. I do know there was somebody from our city there, but I don't know a lot of the details. The problem is nobody knows who these people are who are making these decisions. And this is what I wanted to talk about in this video more than what happened with the decision, because I don't have a lot of news to share. But what's very problematic is we are supposedly living in a democracy, right? And when people hear the word democracy, they think, well, this is the voice of the people. This is what the majority wants. But if you start talking in the streets, the majority of the people are not for this. And in fact, the majority of the people think that this makes absolutely no sense. I've had so many people see, how can they do these measures that are killing off all the local fishermen and all the local farmers and ranchers? Why do they want this? And I'm like, well, the only thing that makes sense to me is they want full control. Because if they can get rid of all of these local independent sources of food, then they can put in these large corporations, which are much easier to control. And once you control these corporations, and I think they also have the added bonus of, not being quite as healthy, these foods. A factory farm is never going to be the same as this local farm where you have the cows that are grazing on grass. And if you have them all stuck in a building, it's not going to be the same. And I actually saw a factory of chickens once, and it was horrible. It was horrible. I worked very hard to try to find the highest quality foods and try to buy where I know that these animals are free to get outside. And, it's just not the same quality of food, but it's not just because of the quality of the food itself, it's for the well-being of the animals. I have hens, and they are out doing what they want all day. And these girls are happy, and I've had some of them for over 6 years now, and they do their thing. They're our pets, and I'm a lot happier about eating their eggs than eggs from a chicken that is caged inside, a chicken from a large corporation. These chickens, they are in the sun, so their eggs are going to have a higher concentration of vitamin D. They're eating the grass, so they're just going to have, it's going to be more omega-3s than the omega-6s of these chickens that are only eating these certain cereal feeds and that sort of thing. So to me, it's very important that you have quality food and access to quality food. And the problem is what the European Union is trying to do. And they're doing this by saying that they want zero hunger. So they are putting into practice the idea of having these huge, massive fisheries or these fish farms. And you go to these places and everything's dead in the water around them. So that just shows you how healthy and how, wonderful they are for the seas, these fish farms. But the idea is we have these fish and we can control them. And these fish are medicated, these fish are vaccinated, these fish are, I don't know, it's never going to be the same. And I think that these governments like this because big corporations are easy to control. You can give them money, you can have them do pretty much whatever you want. Whereas if you have a lot of local, independent food sources, that is much more difficult to control. So when people say none of this makes sense, that's the only thing that makes sense to me. I could be off base, but I kind of doubt it. And but these people are here, and here in Spain, I would like to get this idea out there because most of my followers are from the United States. I do have people who read my blog from all over the world, but the majority come from the United States. And I just want you to get an idea that voting here in Europe, and I have voted in both countries as I have dual citizenship from both Spain and the United States. Voting in Europe is nothing like voting in the United States. And I think people think democracy, people are deciding what they want. But there is a limit to what you decide. And just think, even in the United States, you might be voting every 2 or 4 years, and you might have a few more local elections here and there. And you get propositions and things to vote on. But you're still not voting in a lot of the stuff that you want. Like, a lot of important decisions, you are voting somebody to make those decisions for you. But here in Europe, it's even less. And you don't even vote for the people in the positions. And that's what's so frustrating. And even in your particular country, you are not voting for the people who are in charge of you. So I have never been able to vote for the president of Spain. And you can't even vote for the vice president. And one thing that is quite interesting, I still remember the day years ago when I started investigating something online because on the TV they were talking about the second vice president. Like, what do they mean the second vice president? And I came to the realization that Spain, a country that's the size of Texas, had 4 vice presidents. And like that number can go up and down depending upon who's in charge. And they can make up, if they want 52 vice presidents, they just put 52 vice presidents in place because they decide everything. You do not get to make that vote. You don't get to make that call. But what's even scarier is you haven't even voted in your president or your 52 vice presidents. And they're not 52, by the way, that is a hyperbole. But it feels like that. and the ministries and all of these things. These are like cabinets that they just start coming up out of the blue. And now there's the Agenda 2030 ministry and looking for ways to destroy the world, and in the name of course, saving the world. But what you vote for is just a party, and that's all you can vote for. And, you don't have the option, like in the United States, to say, well, I like this guy for president from this party, but, I like this other guy better as senator, even though he's from an opposing party or just another smaller party. And you can't do that here in Spain. And what's even been more frustrating for me, one year, it's been a few years since I've even voted, and that's a whole nother story. I could get into another day in my reasoning for that. But one year, I was really excited about a candidate. I really liked him, and I voted for that party. And what happened? Right after the elections, he was so disappointed by the few votes he had that he stepped down, and that party put in somebody that I absolutely despised. And I thought, what switcheroo did they just give me? I voted for somebody with certain ideals. I voted for a party because of one person who had ideals that I thought aligned with mine. And then days later, they put in somebody who has completely different ideals. And I'm thinking, I would have never voted for this person had this person been in charge of the party when I voted. And those are the sorts of things that happen here. But what's even more dangerous than that is the European Union itself. Nobody here votes for any of those people. So I have voted for a party who decides everything that's going to go on. If we're going to have 20 presidents and 72 vice presidents and 270 ministries and all of these things. And keep in mind, I believe, from what I've heard, that Spain has more politicians and more official cars and more crazy things than the United States. And it's really frightening to know how much bureaucracy there is here. But then the European Union, these same people are deciding who decides things for us in Europe. And none of us know who any of these people are. We have never had the option to determine which psychopaths are trying to decide everything for the entire European Union. So that's what it comes down to. And then what's really frustrating is you see on the news, already on the news, that, the fishermen have come to agreement with the European Union and everything's happy-go-lucky. And it's hard. I can't make any determination on what they've decided yet because I don't have enough information. But what I will tell you is the fishermen did not make these decisions. They're not happy about it because they don't even know if they can be happy about it or if they're going to have to shut down into a 2025 because the information is so scarce. But they didn't decide this. Yes, they were on strike yesterday, but they weren't the ones who came to this agreement. These are bureaucrats who are coming to these agreements for us, and nobody knows how they even got their positions in the first place. So, I don't want to give more information because I don't want to say anything that's inaccurate about the decision that was made. I did get to see some information about the compensatory measures that were put in place to be able to recuperate some days. But I don't even know if it's official, although logic has it that if there is a paper circulating that has compensatory measures, that means that they did vote in something that's quite not so good for the fishing industry. Now, whether there is a way to get enough days back to make it worthwhile or not, we don't know. So that's why I have to be very careful about what I say about that measure. It does sound to me like it was voted in, the limit of 27 days per year for the fishermen here in the Mediterranean. But I do know that there are ways to get days back, so it's not a harsh limit at 27 days cap, or at least I don't understand it to be that way quite yet. So I don't know how damaging this is of yet. And that's why, but I did want to get you some information because I did say that the decision was going to be made yesterday. I do think that the fishing industry here in Spain has to do some talking to see if they can fix things to see how many days each particular fishing boat would get, because each boat has a little bit of a different number depending on what they fish, and there's a lot of little details that go into these things. So we don't know yet what this means for us. I do struggle these last days because it's really hard to see, somebody who's 55, like my husband, is nearing the age when he could retire for a job like this. Fishing has a lower retirement age because it is a hard profession. He leaves the house, he wakes up at 4 every morning and he leaves the house, they go out fishing at 5 and then they're in at 5, but they have a lot of work. He doesn't get home until pretty late, and so it's a very rough job. But what's really heartbreaking is seeing the younger people, the people who love the sea. These are not criminals. These are people who care for the sea much more than these bureaucrats in their offices saying that they're trying to save the sea. These are people that actually care about the future of the sea because their livelihood depends upon it. These are the people who are clearing out waste. They're clearing out tons of trash from the sea every year. And there used to be a big bin in our port, and I think there's even a sculpture that's dedicated to that, showing it. It's amazing, all of the trash that the fishermen pull out. And they pull out crazy things like cars. They have recuperated bodies. It's interesting to see the sorts of things that you fish on a day-to-day basis. So just leaving at that, hopefully these young people that have invested all their time and studies and money into studying for a profession that they wanted to do, hopefully the European Union hasn't completely destroyed their chances to be able to make a future for themselves. But we shall see.